Hello guys, according to Bloomberg, the Kremlin is already looking for 1.2 trillion rubles to rescue the budget deficit and to be able to continue the war in Ukraine. And it is just the beginning of 2026. All because they have serious problems with the revenues. Oil and gas revenues collapsed in 2025 and they are trying to find a way to substitute them with other revenues and not that many options left. That's why more and more Russian politicians discuss more and more taxes. And this is deadly for the small size, mid-size Russian business. At the beginning of 2026, they began paying a higher VAT, 22% now, and also the threshold was lowered. So all over the Russian internet, you may see millions of videos with people complaining about the need to close their business and blaming everything, including cold weather, but not Putin and the special military operation in Ukraine. Anyway, they will impose more taxes, destroying more businesses, and thus only fueling the collapse of the Russian economy. And actually, they also consider introduction of new environment damage fees. But please do not think that Putin is worried about nature. He is looking for a way to get more money for more missiles and bombs, while taking them from, let's say, Russian metallurgic companies, which right now are at the top of bankrupts in Russia. This is the domino effect that we observe right now inside the Russian financial system. And our task is to remain realistic, to understand that Putin wants to continue this war. He does not have plan B, and our only working peace plan is to defeat and demilitarize Russia. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see justice served, subscribe, we will witness that together, and share these videos to spread the truth. That's important. So honestly, in Ukraine, to be able to survive these really challenging times, you have to be a mix of a realist and an optimist. And if we look at this news published in Bloomberg and in many other Russian sources, you have to analyze the situation from this realistic perspective. Putin does not want to end this war. He does not take any negotiations seriously. Last night was the heaviest Russian attack on our energy heating infrastructure since 2026, and it was after Trump openly asked Putin to stop for at least a week. Of course, a week is nothing, and we have to be serious when talking about war and peace, but even a week would be good, especially when the temperatures are that low. Minus 27 Celsius, that is like minus 17 Fahrenheit. It's very unusual for Ukraine, perhaps for the first time in a decade. I don't remember such long periods of cold, frosty weather here. And Putin, together with millions of people who support him, use this frost as a kind of terror over the Ukrainian people. Think about children, think about the elderly. That is just disgusting and no one can forgive it. Justice must be served. But he uses the negotiations to drag time and to continue these attacks, hoping that he can break the Ukrainian spirit and push us to surrender. No. He once again misreads the Ukrainian spirit, and this will end his regime. But he plans to continue this war. In Russian federal budget 2026, they plan to spend 12.9 trillion rubles on military spending. That's a lot. And they already understand that they lack at least 1.2 trillion rubles because, you know, Ukrainians are only growing stronger and no one plans to surrender. And thumbs up for that. So they need to cover this, to reduce this federal budget deficit. They already do not care about the local budgets that stopped paying money to the Russian war criminals who joined the army for the sake of money because they started dividing in half their salaries. They don't have things for that. You know about problems in Murmansk, in far north, in far east of Russia and around Moscow with utilities, all caused by lack of money and lack of maintenance. But they still think where to get this money. And the options that they have left, the solutions that they offer, only speed up the collapse of the economy in general. And this is the demonstration of this, I don't know, madness inside the Kremlin, because let's be honest, when you see the size of the Russian losses, the amount of money they burnt on the destruction of the Ukrainian kindergartens and, like heating centers, you clearly understand the country is not okay. If they invested all of this money in the Russian Federation, it would be a very, very well-off country. But no, they choose violence and crimes. So anyway, they are looking for this money, and the options that they have left add optimism, because they once again think about taxes, the increase of taxes, and they have just increased VAT for Russians, lowering the threshold to 10 million, and before it was like 50 million. So you see, this is a huge difference. Way more businesses now have to pay VAT that is 22%, not 20 as it was before, and it simply ends these businesses very quickly. Thousands announced their closure during the first months of 2026. They are unable to cover such costs, plus the prices are growing inside Russia, the inflation is growing, serious problems with internet for businesses that work online, that is a blow, and many more reasons, and general anxiety that is present in their society, in their population. So anyway, they want to introduce more taxes. They also consider make casinos legal. They are not in Russia right now, and give 30% taxes, but that won't solve all the problems they have. Export duties they plan to increase, especially on diamonds and gold and silver. And you know that many Russians now flee Russia fearing the general conscription. And if you want to know more about the problems inside the Russian military, do watch the new video on another YouTube channel that I connect here directly from a military expert now imprisoned by the Putin's regime, Igor Strelkov-Girkin, who's no friend of Ukraine, but it's interesting to observe his desperation and as he sees the failure of the special military operation. Anyway, and another very desperate move is actually to increase the environmental damage fees. That is a way to get more money from the companies that work in metallurgy, in mining. But here we need to remember that right now lots of Russian companies report bankruptcies. They lose a lot. They do not receive support from the regional budgets or the federal budgets, despite they are asking for it, because the federal budget lacks trillions, the regional budgets lack trillions, and for example, they consider increasing that environmental damage fee for metallurgy 20-fold, like 20 times. And I'm sure this will simply speed up the closure of such companies, and adding it to the collapse of the oil and gas revenues, because first of all, the Ukrainian drone sanctions are very effective, then your economic sanctions are effective, then finally Russia have problems with its tankers, illegal tankers in different seas of the world. And honestly, if all the governments simply followed the rules and promises, this war would long be over and Putin would be in The Hague. So let's speed up this process, because I believe the longer this Russian violence continues, the more authoritarian regimes take it as an example, and we don't need that. So anyway, now they planned that crude oil, Urals, would cost them like $59 per barrel in 2026, and right now 35 is already a success for the Kremlin, and it may be even lower if the pressure on the countries that help Russia keep afloat continues. So subscribe to witness how we keep implementing the only working peace plan, how we keep surviving under constant Russian attacks and betrayal of some of our allies. But here in Ukraine, we understand that the spring will come, and our task is to remain strong, united, Thank you for the support of those people who feel how important it is to deliver justice, to punish the evil, and to defeat Russia. Follow me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky Threads, Discord, and now Substack for a weekly newsletter. Check the merch shop. We have a new collection developed for spring, developed for St. Valentine's Day, because even in times of the big war, we need to remain optimistic and realistic. Do check new items. They work well as reminders, conversation starters, presents, and just simply beautiful items that are directly connected to Ukraine. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channels, but most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Russia can and will be defeated. Слава Україні!